Hello guys, my name is Amit Sani and I welcome you in this daily Hindu analysis video. In the morning these videos come, in the evening the MCQ videos they come. So today, due to some scheduling issues, this lesson is late, and 24th June it's a huge newspaper, and I'm trying my best to explain you all the important issues for the mains stage. These explanations are extremely important. You need to read between the lines, and in a limited space all these experts, they try to convey the best message possible. But analysis means we need to see the background also, we need to see the right information there and what's going on around the issue. So that's the case. So affordable courses by StudyIQ, and you can access all of them. You can call on these numbers. The description is given below the video, and you can call on these numbers also. Now PDF you will get here. I upload these PDFs daily for both the lessons, and in Hindi and English, both these languages, these lessons are coming. So this is the Facebook group. You can send me a request there. Now these are the words that I found today, and you can use them into sentences. First article, it is regarding the first GST Council's meeting, first time after the new government was formed. So important for GS paper 2 and 3, as we all know that the GST Council is the most important body there, highest decision making body here, and regarding the revision in the tax rates and all, or whatever the issue is, GST Council meeting is the most important meet there. So this was the first meeting under the new government, but it did not deliver any big surprise. So that's why they have labeled it as a lackluster meeting. Means a lot of things were expected, like in the electric vehicles, they expected that the tax rate would come down to 5% from 12%, but that change was not possible. Government was afraid of lower collection, but you see, it is during a time when the GST collections are all-time high, but still they are not going for the tax cuts. So that's the case, and monthly tax collections have been very nice in the last 3-4 months. Since January we have been updating you about the information. So not any big decision was taken in this meeting, and they just went on as it is. And some notable decisions taken by the council was one, to extend the tenure of the National Anti-Profiteering Authority by 2 years. So it will work now till November 2021. What is the issue with the National Anti-Profiteering Authority? When this GST started, then the issue came that we are bringing GST because we want to change the system of cascading impact on the pricing of the commodities. So that was the case, because in the earlier system there was a cascading impact, because every time some value was added, and every time the tax was taken on the total value. So every time bigger tax was taken there. So it was a kind of a multiple impact, and ultimately the consumer was bearing all the expenses there, because these people who are in between the chain and these producers and all, they are all passing this price to the consumer at the end. So consumer was paying a lot of amount. But now what is the problem? Problem is that with the GST implementation in many countries, and in India also, it has been seen that prices are not coming down heavily as it was aimed for, because they aimed that when this cascading impact will not be there, then prices will come down, but prices did not come down much. Why that happened? Because in the earlier system, many of these people who are there in between the supply chain and all, and they did not pay taxes, they evaded taxes, and they found some corrupt officials there, and many of them, they did not pay all the taxes. Now GST registration is necessary. So there is a case of input tax credit. What is input tax credit? Suppose iron is mined, 1 unit of the iron is mined, then it will be turned into steel in some factory or something like that. So next, from this steel, some machine or some intermediate product would be made, and after this intermediate product will become the final product. So at every stage some value is added into that. Now there is a system called input tax credit. Means when somebody is selling this iron, then they would be paying some tax on the value, and they would be given a kind of a receipt that you have paid this much tax. So this receipt would be passed on to the next person in the chain, whether it's a wholesaler or something like that. So this wholesaler would produce this receipt and he will only pay tax on the added value. That's the case. Means again you are not supposed to take tax on the total value, only the added value by the second person. Now to the third person this particular receipt would go, and third person would also pay tax on the added value. So this is the case. Ultimately this system should work for the lower pricing, and ultimately the consumer should pay a lower price, because now it is not like that like the earlier system where cascading impact was there and every time the full value tax was taken by the government. So this is the case of ITC. But you see what these companies do, they find some corrupt officials or maybe some loophole in the system, and what they will do, they will not pass this benefit of the lower taxes to the consumer. Maybe government is revising the tax rate and they are lowering the tax rate on some items, but that would not be extended to the consumer by these middlemen or the producers, and they will enjoy higher profits there because they are paying less to the government now and they are not extending this benefit to the consumer. So this is how they can make bigger profits there. So for that, this National Anti-Profiteering Authority is working, and that was started with the GST, and it was for a temporary period of time. Now it looks like it will stay because now they are again extending it till November 2021, and more powers are given to this NAPA, and now it looks like that it would not be surprising if the body becomes a permanent feature under the GST. So this was the biggest highlight of this GST Council meeting, National Anti-Profiteering Authority. Now if we look at this, so the explanation is given here in the PDF. You can read that, and I have told you everything. National Anti-Profiteering Authority, institutional mechanism under GST law to check the unfair profit making activities by the trading community. Okay, and this Central Board of Excise and Customs, which is there for the indirect taxation and all. So they are assisting that, and they are working in a collaboration, and this is how the anti-profiteering front is being taken care of. So that's the case. Next article, a very important one, and we will club this article with the another article on the first page. This is Dialogue of Civilizations, and the next article is this, Walking a Diplomatic Tightrope. It is talking about America, China and India. In this article, we are walking a diplomatic tightrope. This would be important for GS paper 2, and you may say it's an important topic for essay also, because some points you can take here, and for the mains answer writing, these are the most important points. It is talking about the upcoming Mike Pompeo and S. Jaishankar's meeting. S. Jaishankar, a former diplomat, he has become the External Affairs Minister in this government. So he and Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State of America. So these both are important officials, and they are going to meet. Now they are given the political responsibility and bilateral responsibility, but in a political sphere. First, they were working as important diplomats there. So it's an important thing. Now it talks about the specific conditions attached with the Indian government and the Trump administration. Some things are having similarities, their ways, their political campaigns, their particular promises and their approaches, their nationalism, fervor and all these things, they look similar in sense, but the issues are totally different. And here in the earlier article, in this one, it is talking about China's message, and that is regarding the clash of civilization, or you may say confluence of civilization, because American administration has been very much racist in these years. And first with the country called Russia, they had this Cold War till 1991, till the disintegration of Russia, and now the rivalry is going on with China. Mainly China is the biggest rival today for USA, and now even in a racist language, Trump administration says that we were having a kind of a rivalry with our Caucasian brother, that is Russia, because Russians are white, Americans are white, and these both are a Caucasian race, as you all know. Like the Africans are the Negroes race, and Chinese are the Mongolian race, and we are a mix-up. We are a perfect mix-up of all the races. So we are called brown in America. So as some scholars in the past, they talked about these clash of civilization, and Mr. Samuel Huntington was among them. He said that West is superior and West is gonna win this particular fight of civilization, clash of civilization. So when Americans say that we were fighting with our Caucasian brother as Russia, but now we have this fight with a different race, and these are Mongolians. And you see, we are also different from Americans. Chinese are also different from Americans. We, India and China, both are not Caucasians. That's the case. So when American administration and their working and their campaigning all goes with the divisive politics, and they have provoked the Native Americans against the outsiders. And who are the outsiders? Biggest number of immigrants there in America is from India and China, as we all know. So they are also hailed as aliens in that country called America. So who is fueling these kind of emotions? Trump administration. And when I was talking about that similarities are there with Indian administration also. Why? Because Indian politics is going in a same way, like divisions are there, but the issues are different. As I told you, issues here are religion and regions sometimes, and this is all we have been observing, like for the minorities, for some other issues on the secular front. There are many problems. America's report that recently came and talked about India, that India is not maintaining the secular feature there, and India openly, and in a way I must say that somehow I felt that it was arrogant to call for other nations. We could have been silent there, but we tried to thrash all those reports against India, and they say, as official statement by India, they say that no country has this right to talk about India's religious fronts and religious issues. So why this is happening right now? Because some things are really problematic in today's world, and some things are changing with respect to India. There is a clear shift in the secular issues, in some religious issues, in some administrative issues, and in some approach issues as a country, because we have been hailed as a peaceful nation, as a cultured nation, and we never fought with anyone. We never tried to attack anybody, any country, and our ways were very much moderate. We were never an aggressive country. But today this whole image is changing in India. What is the best thing that India had in international platform? That was its image. That's why we were given this particular right for this civil nuclear deal and all. I mean, with America this deal was done, and Australia and other countries, they were very much helpful there in this area. Why? Because India's image is so that they all respect it. That's the case. But today things are changing. We are supporting Israel heavily. We are moving away from Palestine, and all these things, they are showing that there is a clear shift in our approach. And this is happening for some years now with the change of the government, when this happened in 14. So there is a shift in American politics also, there is a shift in Indian politics also. And here there is a particular group, or we can say majority in India, who are very much provoked and very much aggressive. The same goes with America, and these all supporters are heavily supporting Trump there, and here in India heavily supporting Modi in our country. So these are a kind of similarities, that leaders are very much famous there. And among all these backgrounds and among all these situations, China is standing there. China says that China even cites Indian example there. It talks about Rig Veda, it talks about river Ganga, and it talks about Buddhism here in India. It says that India is a great example of culture and civilization, and it's a legend in its sense. And same country here is China. So we both should come together. We should not look at each other with some kind of difference, and we should not be suspicious of each other. And the same China says for America also. They say that talking about Caucasians, Mongolians or something like that, it is not good, and they all need each other, and nobody is a perfect one, and nobody can survive alone. So we all need each other. So we should start respecting each other. And talking in this tone, talking in this divisive tone and being racist in the language is never gonna help anybody. So it's a kind of a positive statement. When that happened, this happened when recently there was a dialogue conference on a dialogue of Asian civilization. Here Xi Jinping was addressing some people, and shockingly was that they even mentioned India, and they talked very positive about India. But the shock was that we never sent anybody in this conference. So it's a symbol of India's clear shift that maybe we are rivals, but this dialogue was regarding the Asian civilizations, and it was very important. If we talk about Asian civilization, then we cannot think of skipping India there. But we did not send any delegation there officially. So that's the case that writer finds very, very problematic here. And it says that American politics is changing, and sometimes we are coming together with America, but again some issues remain here. And in the case of tariff wars and all, and these rise in tariffs and GSP issues, again we are observing that America is being very, very mean, and it only takes care about its own interest. Maybe it was talking a lot about India-America relationship, friendship and all, and they were talking about making India a strategic partner and all, but all is vanished today. And this is clearly visible that both the countries, they are going against each other, because trade and economy, these things are the basic ones, and these are the basics of relationships. If there we have problem, then certainly some things are superficial. Those kind of friendliness and all these things are superficial. It looks like that. And with China, America's tariff war is at all-time high, and there is a great problem there between both the countries. So in a way, India and China, they both are on a same page, and we should exploit that. And I always say in all the articles, and many experts say that Indian-Chinese relationship, good relationship and a friendly relation, is very fruitful for India. And because as I told you, China has gained a lot, and it's a respectable thing that an Asian country has challenged American existence there. So some things are respectable, and we should recognize the hegemony there. We are on the same path, but today China is way ahead from us, and we both started with each other. So there is no harm in respecting someone. We are not compromising somewhere, and this is why we should have a good relationship with China. And even China is proposing in some way after the Wuhan summit. Some positivities are there in this dialogue also. It mentioned about the India's culture and civilization aspects. So these things are good. And one side there is a Trump administration that is creating all kinds of havoc in this world, and all kinds of racial talks and foolish decisions they are taking there, provoking Iran in some sense. With Korea it had issues, and it is trying to create a lot of disturbance in the Middle East area. So there is a clear choice that in Asia we should have this collaboration. And when Xi Jinping is saying these kind of things, then at least we should attend that. That's the case. So here writer was somewhat skeptic about our inactivity there. That's the case. So these kind of statements are very much logical. Maybe China is having some kind of aims behind that, but this statement is very much logical, that history is a witness to how civilizations decline and die when they become exclusivist. Means we cannot claim about exclusivity of our civilization, of our past, because we all are connected. And if I say that if India is moving in a way where majority Hinduism, all these talks are going on, then if they talk about ancient past, if they talk about the history, then why do not they go 2000 more years in the history, where there is no religion, there is no past, and all are similar. There are no races, regions or something like that. It is just the evolutionary process, and all are evolving there. And there are no regions, there are no Sindhu Ghati, Harappa, nothing was there. So there, can you claim there was any kind of religious talks or any kind of knowledge? No, it was not there. So why we are fighting, taking a particular time there? Because it has a certain aim. The aim is politics there. And this domestic politics is affecting a lot of our image internationally. So that is the case. And again and again, you see the conservative Indian side of economy and the people demography, and if you talk about the foolish media debates of the mainstream media these days, I don't want to name the channels, who are talking about that China is very much afraid of India and we can settle the issues with China with one go, and we should just set our forces free. So these kind of foolish talks, they don't mean anything, because after 2-3 days, every person they are using these Chinese smartphones, and they are using Chinese items and everything, and there is no issue of talking in that tone, because what do we need? We need collaboration there. And here some issues are created by America also. America tried to woo us, and we signed Lemo, Comcasa, everything, and more America tries there, more we are going away from China and Russia in a way. Not apparently, but in a way, it's a kind of a more support for America, and more support for America means less support for its rivals. So that's the case, and that's why writer says that we should be wary of the American relation there. It's more about its own means and its own aims, and it only takes care about its own interest. So we should be wary about that, and we should not be very much happy that we are going closer with America. Right now there is a different phase, that these tariff wars and all, but we were going in such way. So that's the case. And now why I'm telling you this thing, because the other article is talking about same issues, and they both start from this simple issue of civilization and the particular approaches of these bigger countries, and 3 countries: China, India and America. That's the case. So when Xi Jinping talks about these kind of issues, then we have to talk about Indian approach also, and this approach is changing, and American approach is really problematic. So if we find some similarities with the problematic approach, then we need to be careful about that. Now I will take you to the other article where they are discussing the diplomatic tightrope. What is diplomatic tightrope? As I told you that as Jaishankar and Mr. Pompeo, they both are coming from a conventional bureaucratic background, and as Jaishankar was a former diplomat, and in America there is a presidential system, so more official these people are. And now as Jaishankar is given the political responsibility, he is the minister now, so we can exploit his experience and all these expertise there, and thinking about that only, he is made as the external affairs minister. But you see, the issue is that the parties, the political parties, the ruling parties in both these countries and their political leaders, if you talk about straight to Trump and Mr. Modi, so their approaches are somewhat different. And earlier these leaders who were there, different parties, different presidents in America who were there, they were more dependent on the conventional system of bureaucracy and particular codes and particular what I can say, protocols and all. Now these both, they are taking a different stand there, and their approach and their way of working is totally different. So how these two, these Mr. Pompeo and Mr. Jaishankar, how they are gonna balance this issue, how they are gonna link up these things, and how they will tackle the situation, that is to be seen here. But important thing is that when they talk about a bilateral relationships, then as I told you, we need to talk about the similarities and the differences. Similarities that in both these leaders, their selection, their election and the election campaigning, they both were very much similar. Nationalistic rhetoric, security concerns, they both show a lot of fear to their countrymen. In India, the Pakistan is a common fear for all of them, and other issues. And in America, they say that terrorism is a particular thing. China is a particular fear there. So fear is a common enemy there, and it's a common talk there in both the campaigns. And they both talk about conservatism because they both belong to right-wing politics. So that's the case, and that is the biggest similarity there. We are talking a lot about Israel, and Israel is totally supported by America, and you see Mr. Trump and Netanyahu, they both belong to this particular category of RWP, right-wing politics. and our inclination more towards RWP is somewhat problematic because India did not have that kind of image. We were very much neutral with Israel and Palestine, but for the first time we ignored Palestine and we went more with Israel. So this kind of thing, why it is there? Because there is a similarity between the approach of the leaders. So that's a different case, and these bilateral relationship and these protocols and all these issues, all these expertise and the experience, historical experience of the independence, that's a different legacy. So how they are going to see that, that's the case. And if we talk about the economic interest, then America first. Always Trump says America first, buy American goods and employ American people, and all these outsiders and all, they are alien to this nation and they are taking our resources and everything. But Trump forgets that America became great because of the genius minds who came from China and America only, sorry, China and India only. But he forgets about that, and talking about this conservatism and this America first policy, he forgets that India is also there. Indians are a lot in number there, and they are also held as aliens for Americans. And that's the case also because H1B visa issue and all these examples are in front of us, and they are saying that Americans are denying these resources to outsiders. So that's the case, and it is all the influence of Trump's politics there, and these people are very much provoked against the outsiders. And here in India, Modi's interest is such that the way Americans were getting jobs, shares, and these business outsourcing from America to India, more jobs were there for Indians. So it's totally a conflict of interest. Americans wants to send Indians or some other countries, country persons out from the from this American businesses and American country, and here we want more and more cooperation and we want more and more support there. We want more and more jobs. And earlier presidents in America, they were having a legacy that they were supporting this business outsourcing, and they were welcoming the great minds from all over the world to America. So they were very much accepting to outsiders. Here that's a clear shift. Trump is denying that invitation to the outsiders, and it says that Americans should get the priority here. So this issue is somewhat problematic. Trump wants to sell the finished products, and biggest thing is the arms. We need arms, and we have this obsession of buying arms a lot. But you see, till arms it is okay, but for the other goods, we do not want finished products. We want technology there, and Modi administration wants more and more technology transfer. But that is totally unacceptable to the Trump. Trump says that sell finished goods, and we want to sell these finished goods with lower tariffs in other countries. But India was not supportive according to Trump, and that's why it ended the GSP system, because Trump was trying to sell the finished products, and we did not want the finished products here. We want this technology transfer first, and we want to become independent there. So India's stand is okay according to its position, but Trump is having some problem with that. So it's more a distortion in the relations there. So that's why we need to balance that, because America is not a trusted partner, and always it has been said that America takes care of its own interest more than any other thing. And that's why we came closer with the 2+2 dialogue process, Lemo, Comcasa, everything. But what happened after that? What is the situation today? When it came to GSP, when it came to all these tariffs and all, America just cared about its own interest only, and it ended even the GSP system, the huge system there. So that's why we need to be very much wary about that, and we need to be wary about the euphoria which is there in India. You see, this line says all. The Indian euphoria surrounding Mr. Trump's relentless bluster against Pakistan needs to tempered with some realism. You see why this thing is said. This thing is said because if we talk about the instability issue and the terror issue and the war issues in Asian region, America is at cusp with the war with Iran, although it denies, but it is taking all the steps towards a war. And Afghanistan is totally disturbed. It officially is talking with the Afghanistan government, but actually it is talking with the Taliban group. Okay, it has sent a particular envoy to talk to Taliban there, and they are negotiating with Taliban more than the Afghan government, and they stopped all these help to Pakistan and all. But now, because of the Taliban issue, America is talking to Pakistan, and where there was a euphoria in Indian media that we have got American support there and Pakistan is nowhere and it is totally isolated in a sense. So we were behaving somehow like a smug we were. Because why we were smug? We were that because our media showed us that America is in total support of India, and this is all because of our leader, great leader, and all these things were there. But what is the reality? It was just news. Today America is talking directly to Pakistan because of the Taliban issue, because it has a priority over its Afghan interest there. It wants a respectful exit, and for that exit it needs to talk to Taliban there, and Pakistan can make that thing possible. So that's why it is talking to Pakistan. If we talk about the Masood Azhar issue, there also America brought this proposal. Then again in Indian media it was something that it's our proposal that we want to declare Masood Azhar as an international terrorist, and America and France, they both are bringing this particular proposal for us, and it is all our influence, and it is all India's support for India there. So that was not the case. The bigger priority was to counter China there, and that's why America was very much in a hurry to bring that particular resolution there. So that's the case. So in Masood Azhar case also, it wanted to counter China more than it wanted to support India. So that's the case, and that's why the writer says that we have to talk about realism. Means what is the reality? We cannot become blind in emotions, and whatever the advertisement by the government is, we should not believe that. There is a different reality there. So that's the case. So that means American support is not real, and they are there always when their interests are standing, and we need to be very much cautious about that. So when this meeting is going to happen, then it's very, very important. If we talk about the leaders, so in both these countries, India and America, leaders are such. There are common things again, that if we talk about Trump, then Trump wants to show how strong he is. Whether we talk about the Iran issue, whether we talk about the North Korea issue, the kind of statements he made there, whether we talk about China, every time what kind of statements they make, they are just creating sensation with their words, and high talks and talking like dons, and it's not a kind of official statement. They are always in a way they talk that we are very strong people and we are very much influential, nobody can stand before us, and so great this system is, and actually we are making our country great. Our all previous leaders, they were not that much capable. We are the best people. This is the common thing in India and America these days, and they only talk about the previous governments. They're only changing all those decisions. They are only criticizing all those decisions, and every blame they are shifting on the previous leaders. This is the common thing. The same is going on in India and America, and now both leaders say that we are bringing a great time for this country, and even Trump says that India and China took his predecessors for a ride. Means the previous leaders, previous presidents, they supported India and China's cause more, and they ignored American interests. The way in India, in popular media, we hear all these things that the previous governments, they ignored Indian conditions, and they ignored Indian demands, and they made this country poor, and now we are the best ones. So all these things are there. So why we are talking about this issue? Because it gives the clarity regarding the domestic politics and their approaches. And now in the background of this approach, and on the platform of this kind of situation, both these officials, Mr. Pompeo and Mr. Jaishankar, they need to talk here. And again I say the Chinese point, that's very, very crucial. I always say we are an Asian century, and India and China, they both are the biggest countries, and China is way ahead than India, but India is also on the same path. So we need some collaboration there, and we need China more than we need America. It's a faraway country, but the diaspora is a major region there, and that's why we cannot ignore American issues anytime, because we have a bigger population there living there, and both all are Indians there. So that's the case, and this approach is again reflected in the line. It explains everything, that It is the statement by Trump administration that presidents before Mr. Trump always privileged the strategic components of American global ties. Sorry, it is not Trump administration's statement. It is actually by the writer here. Writer says that presidents before Mr. Trump always privileged the strategic component of the American global ties, and they care about America's image there. But now, like a businessman, Trump is taking everything on a different path, and like a businessman, he's taking trade and commercial issues on a priority, and strategic issues are not that much important for him, and that's why his policies, they look very much confused, and they look very much biased in a sense, and they look like things are not justified in a way. So the way it dealt with Iran, the way it dealt with Korea, it dealt with China, things are very much problematic there. Okay, so the writer explains all these things, and it shows us the clear picture there. It talks about both the leaders, it talks about both the approaches, and it talks about the Chinese issue here also. So both these articles are extremely crucial today. Now we will talk about the next article. It is regarding the Niti Aayog, and important for GS paper 2 and important for essay also, because some things are important. There may be a big question in main stage or a small essay on Niti Aayog also, because it is the body which is hailed as a replacement of the Planning Commission, National Institute for Transforming India. So transforming India is the major issue. What they are talking, as we have discussed in many other articles also previously, that Niti Aayog is not that much powerful as the Planning Commission was, even though Planning Commission was not a constitutional body and it was not a statutory body also, but Planning Commission wielded a lot of power there, and it was much more powerful than the NDC, National Development Council, and the Financial Commission. Finance Commission Article 280 is there, and it takes care about the distribution of the tax proceeds to the states and all, and it advises regarding that. So for every 5 years a Finance Commission is there, but Planning Commission was interfering a lot, and it took over many things there. But now, as a replacement, Niti Aayog came. They criticized Planning Commission a lot, and they said that Planning Commission is too much. But now Niti Aayog is nothing. Balance is nowhere there. Planning Commission was too much, and Niti Aayog does not wield any power. It's a toothless body, because till date, for the last 15, 16, 17, 18 and 19, 4.5 years, it has not done anything huge, and no big responsibility is given to it. Now writer says that it's a time that we bring Niti Aayog 2.0, and we give some responsibility here. It may be a very important body, and it is running some important programs like aspirational district program and the Atal Innovation Scheme and all these smaller issues, micro issues it is taking there, but it needs some macro approach there. And it is the issue of fiscal federalism, where we are having some issues, because the writer talks about two important things: the vertical imbalance and the horizontal imbalance. What is vertical and horizontal? Means above there is state, and above there is center, and there are states, but all the states are not similar, and center is a single entity. Tax proceeds are reaching up to center, but there is a vertical imbalance because more allocation and more share is there with center and lesser is there with states. 42% is the share for states. It is by Finance Commission. So states have bigger responsibilities, states have more mandated duties, but their power and their particular money aspect, that is lesser than the center. So there is a vertical imbalance. Next, horizontal imbalance, because all states are not equal. They have their own capacities, they have their own businesses, they have their own progresses, GDPs and everything. So all the time we need to assess this issue, that which state needs more support, which state is going in an automatic way, and who is managing its affairs very efficiently, who is bringing more and more collection and all. So these kind of things. So Planning Commission used to assess this particular issue, and with a formula like Gadgil Mukherjee formula, it used to assess the situation, and they were releasing some funds to some states on a specific occasions. But this thing is nowhere done by Niti Aayog, and we have totally ignored that particular institution, and nothing is given to Niti Aayog there. So there is a issue, and traditionally Finance Commission have dealt with these imbalances in a stellar manner. although some problems were there, but very efficiently in the given situation, it performed nicely. Now, there is an urgent need for an optimal arrangement. And you see, right, it talks about two issues, type 1 and type 2. What is type 1 and type 2? Type 1 is as a solution we are taking here, type 1 solution, type 2 solution. Type 1 is to do with the adequate provisions of basic public goods and services, and for that Niti Aayog somewhere is assisting, but financial ministry and all, they are tackling these issues. Finance Commission is also there for that. But the type 2 is for growth and accelerating infrastructure and the transformational capital deficits. This issue can be tackled by Niti Aayog very efficiently, and it has all the expertise, it has all the provisions, and it should be the most appropriate institution for this type 2, means for the infrastructure acceleration transformational capital, because it is the National Institute of Transforming India, so it has the aim suggested in its name. So they should give this responsibility to Niti Aayog here, and Niti Aayog 2.0 should come. And you see, there is the issue of a Tinbergen's rule. What is Tinbergen's rule? That at one time we can manage only one thing. If we want to control the issues of you say inflation, and at one side there is exchange rate. If we want to lower the inflation, then it will impact the exchange rate in the opposite way. If we want to control the exchange rate issues, then it will impact the inflation in some other way. So at one time we can only tackle one problem. That's the case with the Tinbergen rule. And here, this is the situation, that Finance Commission is overburdened here, and Niti Aayog is doing nothing in this sense. So at one time Finance Commission can focus on one issue, and the second should be given to Niti Aayog there. Sorry, Finance Commission is taking on all other issues like the states it is managing, and it is talking about the vertical imbalance issue. So other things should be given to Niti Aayog there. So that is the case, and that is the problem there, that one institution cannot manage all, and Finance Commission is overburdened there. Okay, and if we talk about the allocation of transformational capital in a formulaic manner, then Niti Aayog should adopt this, the way Planning Commission was going with the Gadgil-Mukherjee formula. So these kind of formulas should be there available with Niti Aayog, so that it can manage the situation very efficiently. And this Niti Aayog should be an independent evaluation office also, because right now there is nobody that can do independent evaluation there. So Niti Aayog should be out of that pressure of the government first of all, and it should become an independent institution, and it should work in a very active way. That's the case. Okay, and it should not commit the mistake of micromanagement or the conflicts with the line departments, as some issues it is taking, these are smaller ones like innovation scheme, a special district program, and all these things. So these are micro issues, so it should not go into micromanagement. It's a nationalistic institution, and very important responsibility should be given to it. And next, the writer talks about a very important issue of decentralization. Here the writer says that as we are talking about important measures for the development, talking about Niti Aayog, the next issue is the local bodies and the decentralization process, because the cities, they are improving in a sense, they are progressing a lot, and many cities are there where more than 5-10 lakh people are living. So more and more decentralization we are needing here, and the panchayati system, that also needs a lot of support. So there should be a particular this local body or panchayati raj institution consolidated fund, as it is there in the center. It should be there a particular fund, and money can be diverted from the CGST and SGST and IGST issues, so it can be created. It needs amendment in these articles, but government should go for that, and they can even go for that. They have the majority, and they can go with all these amendments, because this would be the great way, and this fund should be there so that more and more decentralization can be there. Okay, and 3 F's of the democratic decentralization, which are funds, functions, and the functionaries. When they will be available with these bodies, then automatically on the ground level things will improve drastically, because today they are dependent on the supports, they are dependent on some other administrative issues and all. If they will have some autonomy, then they can go for their own management, and in an efficient way they can manage, because they are the ones who want to be managed. So this support should be there. So decentralization is the next pillar of major progress there. Next, fine tuning the GST, the last provision. GST is very, very important. We started talking about GST with one nation, one tax. But today is not the case, and there are various rates. And writer says that we should go towards a single rate. What do we say? The sin category or the non-merit items like alcohol, tobacco, and all these things, they may have a specific mention there, and there may be higher taxes for these things. But apart from that, we should go for a single rate there. Although it's a very difficult task, but at least it would bring a better management there, because today things are very much complex, and sometimes it is very much confused also. And the lower middle class, or we may say that the so-called parallel economy which was there in India, and all these small-time shopkeepers and all these small-time businessmen and all, they are finding it very, very difficult there. And many issues are there where GST Council has to listen to every time, and they need to think over many times. So at one time they should settle this issue, and in many articles by many experts this thing has been suggested. So suitable surcharges can be there for some sin goods, but this should be a single rate GST system, and that would be much more beneficial there. So transparency in the working, create its own secretariat with independent experts, and it should have its own staff. These kind of reforms GST Council should adopt, so that it can work in a very efficient way. So the last point is regarding the GST. So this is where we started with Niti Aayog and talking about Finance Commission, talking about their responsibilities, and comparing with Planning Commission. Now the planning is not there, so that's why the responsibility is bigger, because when there was planning, so Planning Commission was much more important. So some assessment was also there, that we achieved this much in 5 years, but today we do not have any planning, and in which way we are going, we don't know. But all kinds of schemes and claims and explanations and all these troubles consistently we are observing. But what kind of accountability and the assessment should be there in the future, we don't know. So that's why the importance of Niti Aayog is much more important, and as soon as it is possible, it should be given bigger responsibility, and the time bound management should be there, and this decentralization and the GST, these important points. We will take smaller issues, all the smaller facts tomorrow, and I'm gonna end the lesson today. Thanks a lot. Keep watching. It was Amit Sen.